We are back once again with Ethan Forman of the Gloucester Times to talk all things Gloucester and Cape Ann, I guess, too. But first and foremost, Ethan, we're coming off a big decision from City Council on zoning. We're finally there.
Yes, this was the second tranche, the second round of zoning amendments. As you remember, the planning board had recommended 9 zoning amendments regarding conversions of single and 2-family homes and 3-family homes, and they are in the downtown and the R5 as it goes. Other various zoning changes and heights. Height allowance is up by 5 feet, and you think, well, 5 feet, but it does mean a lot, So there was some zoning on April 26th. The city council had made their first round of decisions. They were supposed to have a city council meeting on the 10th, May 10th, as we recall, but they ran out of time. They had a huge agenda on May 10th, and so they had a special meeting on Tuesday nights. And I don't think we have to say much more because the council rejected them. None of the amendments passed. And even despite the lowering of the threshold they didn't need a supermajority for some of these articles. They only needed 5 votes. Normally they would need 6. So they didn't even need the supermajority, and they still didn't pass.
So what was the tone in the meeting on Tuesday night? Was it tense? Mostly it was 3 councilors who were voting for the zoning, right?
Well, it was interesting because most of the public comment, there was about an hour and 40 minutes of public comment, and most of that was negative. I mean, for whatever reason, a lot of people were concerned. One woman was saying, I'm getting all these letters from developers, Ocean City Development. They said that during the meeting, and they're just saying, they want to buy my house. So the concern was that if you loosen these restrictions and you don't have to go before the ZBA, you get spur developers to come in. And then there was concern about Gloucester's a lot of traffic. Today they're milling Washington Street from Exchange Street down to Grand Circle. You got to let people know that's happening. So that's gonna be a nightmare. That's gonna, it's probably gonna cause a lot of traffic tie-ups. It's very hard to drive around. Parking, I mean, it's like Mortal Kombat, I mean, I understand people don't want to be shaded by a taller structure. So that was the tenor of the discussion. Though there were a few people who did speak for Joel Favaza as an attorney, permitting attorney, and he said, I support these things because we'd make less money. I'd make less money, but the city would move forward. And Peggy Hegarty Steck of Action Inc. also got on the line. A couple other people, stuck their necks out. The tone among the councilors, I think, was struck by Tracy O'Neill. It's my constituents don't want it. She lives downtown. It's very hard for them to get out of their driveways. I mean, I understand that. If there's one woman on the public comment said a fire truck had trouble getting down the street for a house fire. They had to use the aerial ladder and put in the house. The house that was on fire was destroyed. So you can't, as much as this might have probably led to some easing and creation of housing, infill housing. That's what the residents didn't want it. They didn't want it. They didn't want the neighbors on Eastern. They were going to 2 families. I think it was 2 families in the RC40 district.
Okay, which is RC40? Which is RC40?
Yeah, Eastern Point Boulevard and Magnolia Shore, I believe, are the 2 zone where that zoning district covers.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking, well, maybe people want to put up a house or a carriage house, and no, it was like, no, we don't want to change the character. We feel it's going to be a stressful on the environment. You're an elected official, you gotta listen to the people. The arguments, I think, from the 3 councilors, I think Val Gilman seemed conflicted because she'd been getting a lot of pushback from folks in Lanesville. I know Val Nelson was trying to make the point that Gloucester's height is at or above some other coastal communities. And there was discussion about, well, could we do a kind of what the Marblehead does when you're near the water? You get a lower height, and maybe when you're back. I mean, if a house is on a hill, who cares how tall it is? The planning director, I think, was a little frustrated. He had made this presentation several times, and I can't speak for him, but he was trying to combat a lot of misinformation. Once again, saying that these proposals had nothing to do with the MBTA community's proposal, which is from the state, but it just all came together at once. And so I think that, Val Gilman was conflicted. I think Jason Gray was trying to take the long view of this, that if you look at R5, a majority of the lots don't comply with zoning. Only about 800 lots, comply with zoning. So if you want to put a 3-family on it, these are the only lots you would have. And there could be other factors that would push this thing into a ZBA hearing. People seem to want the protection of a ZBA hearing, which could be expensive, a few $1,000s to go before the zoning board, hire an attorney, get the permitting and all that stuff.
Right.
So in the end, they were all defeated, all.
Yeah. So
And
Ethan, is there
and I
any?
also want to point out too, that I didn't include in the story, but the councilors did make a point to give a big shout out to the planning director, the planning board, and anyone else who's worked on this, the consultants. It's been a long process.
Yeah.
To get to where it was. So I didn't have room to put that in, but they were very thankful of,
the work that was done. Yeah.
Right. But now, Ethan, do those folks have any recourse now, or is this a done deal? Was this shelved?
There's 2 things that I heard. There was some question about whether these amendments could come back. And I was unclear from the discussion whether they'd have to hold off for another 2 years. I think if it's a city council motion, maybe I was just not clear, but the planning director is very clear that the planning board will probably not have the appetite to deal with height. After going through this exercise, the people did not want the height extension. That was loud and clear. And in fact, the planning development committee even tried to narrow this. The original height to 35 feet was for single, 2-family, and 3 families. And planning and development saw that maybe it would urge bigger single family and 2 families. So only allow this for 3 families to make it easier to do. Because you want a pointed roof, you don't want a flat roof. But Scott Memard made the point, he was in a 3-family house. You wouldn't know it from the exterior. I don't know. It generated a lot of. There wasn't a really good person. I don't want to say anything on a planning director. There wasn't like a shepherd of this that you might find in a town with a selectman. There was people. The council was sort of given this, and this isn't maybe it's unfair to the planning board because I came in when the planning board was still, mulling this, but I had no idea what was going on. It took me a while to get my head around it. So it sort of lacked, there's a mayoral transition in this. There wasn't that kind of drumbeat from the city. We need this. This is what it's about. Here's all the messaging around it. It was all really very technical. It was some of the most difficult stuff I'd ever had to deal with on deadline. So
it was hard to read. Forget right. I can't imagine.
Yeah. And and I apologize if I got really technical, but I felt like I had to say, well, these are the zones where this was going to go.
Yeah. No, I'm not. That's not on you. It was a complicated. It was a complicated story, and you were trying to get it right for sure.
Yeah. Hopefully, I did. I had to write a correction because I kept including a zone in one of the articles. I started it twice, and no, I might have heard it. I don't know where I picked it up in a presentation. A reader said, "Hey, you're wrong," and I was like, "Yeah, you're right."
So this is entirely separate. We have to make that clear. The MBTA overlay zoning is a completely different issue, but around that issue, there is sort of a threat hanging over the municipality that, you don't get state funding if you don't do this, something like that. Are there any consequences, except now people have to go to the, get permission to change their construction projects? Are there any consequences from the fact that the city council is now, that this zoning is completely defeated? And I couldn't say that very well.
No, you got it. I'm with you.
I mean, nothing, well, for the zoning amendments, they just, they just fail. That's it. I mean, that's on to the next business.
Yeah.
The MBTA communities, I mean, I was supposed to cover, I didn't cover Rockport Town. I had COVID 2 weeks ago.
Right.
But I believe that they passed their zoning, their 48.
Yes, they did. All except one tiny little piece, which was kind of a nuts and bolts piece.
Yeah, and that was like nuts. That was, they were trying to fix. Hey, listen, they don't want like cottage colonies. Who's going to build a cottage colony in Rockport anymore? I heard that, a little bit of that. But so Rockport, I think, embraced it. Gloucester is a different situation. I mean, there was some discussion of the MBTA communities at the zoning amendment hearings, even though that wasn't. And you keep hearing talk about the Shaw's plazas changing hands. We have no idea what's going on with the Shaw's plazas changing hands.
Right.
But there doesn't seem to be the same kind of embrace. Let's make it a point, like, just from my observations of being really new to Gloucester. Gloucester is exactly what the T wants. It's just not by right multifamily.
Right.
I mean, workforce housing at the train station. How much houses? You just walk up Washington Street or whatever. Now I'm pontificating, but it's all there.
Right.
It's already there.
Yeah.
The workforce housing that they envision is in place, just not, 2,000.
But returning to the zoning amendments that were defeated, from now on, you simply cannot do
there's no change in the zoning.
Right. Exactly.
There was just no change. If you want to do a 3-family in the R5, you got to go to the special permit. You got to go to the zoning board.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's what it comes down to, as you have all along.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It's like, in other words, nothing changed.
Right.
It was, you want to do 35 feet, you'll have to go, get an exception, a height exception.
So I have one more question along those lines. The mayor has proposed an entirely different concept in addressing the affordable housing crisis in the city. When will we hear about that, do you think?
Well, I'm not up on it. That's news to me.
Okay. Well, he talked to us about it, about designating certain pieces of property in the city for affordable housing development.
I did see that you had an interview with him, but I have not had time to watch.
Maybe you should listen.
I don't know. Yeah, again, I think that affordability is, see, the thing is, you talk about the zoning amendments, this was not about affordable housing.
Right, yeah. It was about more housing.
It was about more and all types of housing. A rising tide lifts all boats. And I thought that by tweaking the zoning ordinance, you could get a lot of infill. And people said, no, we don't want, or we're filled in,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was the tenor, and if, you go down Centennial Avenue, I'll take that for an example. I mean, the houses are like this.
Yeah, like crowded teeth.
Up. Yeah. And it's actually really cool. And it looks like the houses go down. They don't go up. The houses go down.
Right.
So they have a lot of room that way. But that, I mean, isn't that what the T want? That's the kind of stuff the T wants. They're a lot more affordable houses than big McMansions.
Mm-hmm.
People are just saying, we want it the way it is. You got to respect them.
Well, Ethan, I'm glad you kept your head on screwed on straight for all of that. That's a lot. It's a tall task to have to sift through that stuff.
I hope I did it justice. I hope people are informed. I tried tweeting the decisions as they were coming, and I couldn't make the paper on Wednesday, but hopefully we were informative. And in the end, that's it. I mean, if you want to agree with some of the stuff I said, but hopefully the paper and I got it right. So that's all I care about.
Gotcha. So, what else you working on now? That's out of the way.
I don't know. Is people say, well, what did you work on? Well, they're paving Washington Street from Exchange Street
That's a
to
big one.
Union
Yeah.
Circle. I just talked to Mike Hale. This project is not a city project. It's a National Grid project.
Hmm.
National Grid's had some problems with their service. Donut, hey.
You said National Grid, and
Yeah.
immediately
National
Donut
Grid
went.
had some problem with its service, and
Yeah.
and then my dog went crazy. It's not a city project at all.
Yeah.
I want to start barking too, by the way.
Yeah.
Concerning National Grid, but that's okay.
Well, I guess that's it for this segment.
Yeah, it's lunchtime for Donut. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thanks again, Ethan. We'll catch
Thank
up with
you,
you
Ethan.
next week.
All right, take
bye.
care. Bye from Swampscott. I'll see you later.
Okay, bye.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.